on Chav Beis Amid Beis 22b. 7-8 lines down from the wide lines. No, a little earlier. 1 second. Yeah, third wide line, third to last word. Amar le Rapapala Abaye. So we're in the middle of talking about a Kohen growing out their hair too long, and we learn out that he has to get a haircut every 30 days from a Nazir who also has to get a haircut every who a regular Nazir, if he becomes a Nazir, he cannot get a haircut for 30 days. Now, the pasuk says V'rosham lo yigalechu u'pera lo yishalechu. That was by a Kohen. That was in Yecheskel. So now in Yecheskel. So now, what is that? Oh, yeah. So Amrli Rav Papa Labai Ema Lo Lir Biklal. Maybe don't include it at all. Maybe there should be no such halacha. So Amrle Ikas of Lo Yishalechu Pera. Maybe you just can't grow it out. So then maybe you'd be right. Kidika Amris. Bahash the Ksiv Upera. At first it says about growing it out, and then Lo Yishalechu, you shouldn't grow it out. So Pera Lahave sounds like you can make it grown out. However, Lo Lishluchu. Pera Lahave, but Shluchi Lo Lishalchu. Sounds like the way its phrase is Pera you could do. Lo Yishalechu, you can't do more than that. So therefore, we learn out that it can be up to 30 days, when afterwards you have to, by day 31, you have to get a cut. So now, what about nowadays? Ha'idna nami, nowadays it should be dumya diyayin. Ihachi ha'idna nami. So maybe nowadays the same halacha should apply. So we say dumya diyayin. No, they're juxtaposed in the Torah, growing hair and wine, and they're similar to each other. Ma yayin v'zman biyahud aser, shlo b'zman biyashari. Yayin is only aser for Kohen to drink when he's going in to do his service in the temple, in the Beis Hamikdash. So, but when he's not working, he could drink. So af priye rosh b'zman biya aser, shlo b'zman biyashari. So too, growing out your hair, it's only at the time where you're going to enter into the Beis Hamikdash. But when you're not going to enter, there's no problem. So nowadays that would be fine. So says the Gemara, hold on, v'yayin shlo b'zman biyashari. You're allowed to drink wine when you're not working in the Beis Hamikdash. V'hatanya Rabbi Omer, Rabbi says, Ani kohanim asum me Rabbi, I'm a Kohen, I can't drink wine. Lo'olam, really I can't drink wine. However, aval ma'aseh, what can I do? Shetakanoso kilkalto, the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, and therefore we don't know which group of Kohanim that we're in. So since we don't know, therefore, since we don't know, we don't know the mishmar, so therefore we're allowed to. That allowed us to drink wine. But really, without that, it would be awesome for me to drink wine, even at a time where I'm not serving in the Beis Hamikdash. It's just because we don't have a Beis Hamikdash and we don't know our mishmaros, our watches. We know that the Kohanim were divided into 24 watches, and each one had a week. So Rebbe says, but you see, if not for that, I would not be allowed to drink wine, even when there's no Beis Hamikdash, even when it's not the time of my service. So now that's one. The Amar Abaye. Sorry. We're going to go for the next part. According to Rabbi, with no Beis Hamikdash, you could drink wine. Why? Because they messed up the after it was destroyed. We don't know who should serve anymore because it all got confused. So the Amar Abaye, Kiman Shasi Kohani Chamra Ha'idna. Nowadays, Kohanim drink wine. They must go like Rebbe, like the opinion of Rebbe. Okay, but from here, this is what we need. Michlal de Rabbanan Asri. Michlal, that only Rebbe allows you to drink wine when there's no Beis Hamikdash. But the Rabbanan would aser drinking wine when there's no Beis Hamikdash. So says the Gemara, no. Hasam hainu taima meheri yibana Beis Hamikdash. Ube'inan kohen aroi lavoda v'leka. So says the Gemara, no, it's different. The reason why, it's an amazing thing, the rabbis did not allow you to drink wine think the Gemara in Tainus has different opinions about this, but the rabbis didn't allow you to drink wine even after we lost the base of Mikdash, because it's going to be built speedily, and what's going to happen? You have to have some Kohen available who's not intoxicated. However, but by growing out hair, that we're fine. So says the Gemara, no, hachanami, but ina Kohen roi lavoda v'leka. So say the same thing. Sorry. So say the same thing over here. We should have always a Kohen getting a haircut every 30 days, just because when the base of Mikdash is built, we should be able to have a Kohen go right in. But if he doesn't have the adequate haircut, he can't go in. So we say no. There's a difference. Hacha efshar de misper v'ayil. When the base of Mikdash is rebuilt, just go get a haircut and go in. So not such a problem, says the Gemara. Well, then it's standing by the wine. Hasanami after denying port of ayil. Everyone knows if you have a little bit of wine, just sleep a little bit, take a small nap, and then go into the base of Mikdash. Take your power nap, and then you're good to go. And yet we still see that the Rabbanan said you can't drink wine nowadays because we might have a base of Mikdash. Why not? You have an easy fix, small nap, and go in. So we say no. Damar Rav Acha, derech mil v'sheina kol shehu mafikin esiyayin. Rav Acha says either you walk in somewhat of a straight line or whatever. No, you walk a mill or you take a small nap. That takes away. It's mafig esiyayin. It takes away the taste. It takes away the effect of the wine. So you see that you just do that and it's good to go. So we're back to our question that why don't nowadays we make Kohanim get haircuts every 30 days? Vilav itmar la Rav Nachman Amar Baravua. Did we not teach from Rav Nachman, who said in the name of Rabbi Baravua, Loshon el shasa kidei revius? That's only true if you have a revius, a small amount of wine. Then a nap or walking a mill is going to take away the effect. Aval yoser mekdei revius. If you have more than a revius, so kol shekein the derech tardaso v'shen nishkarto, then for sure, if you have more than a revius, walking and sleeping is going to make it much worse for you. So therefore, you don't really have a fix nowadays for the wine, because if you have a little bit more than a revius, then you can't work. Therefore, they didn't allow you to drink wine nowadays, as opposed to a haircut. You could just get a haircut and go in. So there's no reason to restrict haircuts for Kohanim nowadays. Rav Ashi gives a different reason. What's the ramification of going into the base of Mikdash intoxicated? You're mechal the avoda. The service is considered profane. You've profaned the service of the base of Mikdash. Pruye rosh, it's the wrong thing to do, but your service is still considered a good service. The lo machle avoda. Therefore, there they didn't make a gzeira. Lo gazu b'rabanan. There was no need to make an enactment not to get a haircut, because even in the event that the base of Mikdash comes and you go in without getting your haircut, the service is still considered a good service. Therefore, it's a little bit less strict than wine. Therefore, they did not make an enactment. Meisvei, the elush misa, the following you get the death penalty. Pruye rosh, which is suyayin, serving with your hair too long, and shisuyayin, and coming intoxicated. So therefore, you see, it's very strict. So they should have made a gzeira. They should have made an enactment that nowadays Kohanim have to get haircuts every 30 days. Says the Gemara, no, there's still a difference. As long as you don't drink wine, you will not die. Ella pruye rosh minolan. How do you know that serving with long hair gets the death penalty? The iskish shesuyayin lepruye rosh, as it says. So they're compared to each other in the verses. How do we know? And then it says, so you see that the two are juxtaposed next to each other. Just like drinking wine, just like serving intoxicated gets a death penalty, so too serving with too long of a hair is also a death penalty. So umina, and learn from there. Just learn from there that just like serving when you're intoxicated, so it profanes, it invalidates the service. So af pri rosh should be the same thing. Demachle avoda kasha. So this should also invalidate the service. Kasha, that's a good point. Once they're compared for that halacha, they should be compared for this halacha also. So according to Rav Ashi, we leave off with a question. at the end of the day, one who serves with long hair does not profane the avoda. He does not profane the Beis Hamikdash. Therefore, they didn't make a gzeira. The question is, why not? So now, Amrle Ravina Rav Ashi on the Haftorah of Emor. So, Hay Adlo Asa Yecheskel Man Amra. So until Yecheskel came along and told us that a Kohen is going to haircut every 30 days, so who did we know this halacha? Like, who taught us this? Was there any source beforehand? Says the Gemara, like, what kind of question is that? According to your reasoning, that if things were taught by Yecheskel, you have no idea how we got there. So Hadam Rav Chisda Davar Zemi Torahs Moshe Rabbeinu Lola Madnu Ad Sheba Yecheskel Vilimdanhu. The following halacha about a Kohen can only serve if he had a bris milah. That's officially also in Yecheskel. Kol ben necha aral leiva aral basal yavel el mikdashi l'shar seini. You can't go in without a bris milah into the Beis Hamikdash and serve. If you're called an aral can't serve. So says the Gemara, what? And that is for sure we knew even before Yecheskel. So Adlo by Yecheskel man amra. What kind of question is that? Before Yecheskel, who said it? What's the answer? Ela Gemara Gemirila. It was a tradition. It was a Mesorah passed down from Moshe Rabbeinu. But also Yecheskel the Asmacha Akra came Yecheskel and said, here's a verse which is a hint to it. So where it's hinted to in the verse. So Hachanami. So that's the same thing over here. What are you so bothered by? Gemara Gemirila v'asa Yecheskel Asmacha Akra. We had a Mesorah from Moshe Rabbeinu that you have to get a haircut every 30 days. And Yecheskel came and found a pasuk. That's a good hint to this. Yeah. Okay. Now, says the Gemara, Mai kisusi yichasmu es rosheim. So I think that's the verse in Yecheskel, right? Where's the verse? Yeah. No, where's this verse? So it says, Mike is so mikasmas rosheim. Where's that verse from? That's Michas. Yeah, Yecheskel and Dalad base. Veroshim lo yigalechu, upera lo yishalechu, which is the source that you can't grow out your hair too long. So it says kasoim yichsemu es rosheim. So it says, what does it mean? Kasoim yichsemu es rosheim. So what does that verse mean? So what it means is Tana, it's kimin to spores lulinus. So it's some kind of, I don't know how to translate lulinus. What? Lunite. Exactly. A lunite haircut. Exactly. So we're left perplexed. Yeah. So lulinus maybe. Okay, I don't know. So it's a certain kind of haircut. My sport lulinus says the Gemara. What does that mean? Rabbi Shmuel, his sport yichida. It's a very unique kind of haircut. So okay. So what's that? Hechidami. Amar Vashi Rojo Sozeh Betadi Kar Sozeh. So it sounds like every hair, the end of the hair reaches the beginning of the next part, right? The beginning of each hair reaches the end of the previous hair. So that is a unique kind of haircut. And I think the simple understanding is that this refers to Al Kohanim. It could be, some say it's only by a Kohen Gadol. Yeah. And this, by the way, the pasuk of Kosemes, Tosas points out, is the kind of bean or something that grows in a stalk. Kind of a wheat, that grows in the stalk, where each head of one is touching the back of the other. So that's how the Gemara knows that. Okay. Shalu es Rebbe, Ezu Tispersha Kohen Gadol. What is the haircut of a Kohen Gadol? Sounds like this would be for all Kohanim, this Lumanis haircut. Amar Lahen, Subaru Mitisper Shel Ben Elisha, looking at the haircut of Ben Elisha, who was the son-in-law of Rebbe. And what did he do? Tanya Rebbe Omer, Lo al Chinam Pizah Ben Elisha Esma Osam. This Ben Elisha, Rebbe's son-in-law, spent a lot of money to teach people how to do this haircut. Ela Kedei Laharos Botisporis Shel Kohen Gadol. To teach them the haircut of the Kohen Gadol. I'm just thinking right now, it makes a lot of sense. We just said earlier that Rebbe. Oh, no, never mind. That was the Rabbanim. Okay, never mind. But Rebbe's son-in-law, I guess, meaning, even though Rebbe earlier argued that he allowed the drinking of wine because we don't know where the Mishmar is, but it sounds like there was still an urgency that the Beis Hamikdash was coming very soon. So it sounds like that's why this son-in-law would spend money to teach people how to give a haircut to the Kohen Gadol. The same way the Chafetz Chaim had an urgency okay, to open up a kollel to teach people about kachim, about all the laws of Beis Hamikdash. Get a suitcase ready to go. What's going to happen? It's going to be built tomorrow. What's going to happen? No one's going to know the laws how to serve in the Beis Hamikdash. So, Hajj and Allah, Kohen Gadol. Okay, back to monetary laws. Okay, so Dine Mamanos Bishlosha. So we know that monetary laws get judged with three people. Now, Zeb Borlo Echad sounds like, so Reuben and Shimon, they go to court over something. Reuben can choose a Borlo Echad. Right now, Echad means a Bezdin. We'll see if that's going to stay true at the end, but right now it means a Bezdin. Reuben chooses for himself a Bezdin, but Zeb Borlo Echad, and Shimon chooses a Bezdin also. Meaning, Reuben says, I have my Bezdin, I'm not going to your Bezdin. And Shimon's like, well, I have my Bezdin, I'm not going to your Bezdin. So what happens? If that happens, then they both have to come to a consensus and choose a third Bezdin, and they'll have to go over there. That's different. Reb Meir. Reb Meir allows you to reject your friend's Bezdin, or your maybe soon-to-be friend, or your former friend, the guy that you're disputing. So he allows you to reject it, and then if it comes to a full rejection, you guys can choose a third one. Chacham omrim shnei dayanin bor lehen od echad. So sounds like the Chachamim say, if you take one dayan and your friend doesn't, and then your friend has another dayan, then both of them could choose a third. Both, it sounds like both dayanim, or both people, I'm not sure, both dayanim, no? Yeah. Shnei dayanin born lo od echad, two dayanim. So I chose my dayan, you chose your dayan. Now they come together, the two judges, and they choose a third judge. Okay, that's the first thing. We'll see if that's going to stay true. Next one. Zeh posel dayano shel zeh v'zeh posel dayano shel zeh divrei Reb Meir. You choose your judge. I choose mine. So I said, I don't want your judge. I want my judge. So Reb Meir allows you to do that. Chachamim omrim, no. Aim aside. Oh, you can only do that. Bezman shemevi alein raya shein krovin psulin. You can only invalidate the other guy's judge if you could bring a proof he's a relative or he is invalid to be a judge. Aval im hayuk sherin o mumchen. If he's a regular judge, not an expert, but a regular judge, but he's kosher, or mumchen, mipi bezdin, eno yakol postan, then you're not able to invalidate him. Number two. Number three, zeh posel eidov shel, you bring witnesses. So I can reject your witnesses, but zeh posel eidov shel zeh, and the other guy can reject his witnesses, divrei Reb Meir. I guess we have to find out for Reb Meir. So like, how's this ever going to work? Every time you bring witnesses, I'll just reject them. Right? There's got to be some case where they're going to agree. Unless you say, even for a mayor, you have to have some valid claim why you're rejecting them. I don't like you. I don't know if that's going to fly in best. I don't know. We have to see. Same as before, you can only invalidate them if you have a proof that they are relatives or invalid, but without that, you can't just invalidate them. Okay. Back to the beginning of the Mishnah. My zet borer lo echad, v'zet borer lo echad. Sounds like you get one bezdin, he gets second bezdin. Together they choose a third bezdin. Says the Gemara, you don't need 9 people. So betlata sagi, one bezdin is enough. So what does it mean? I choose one, you choose another. The other way we choose a third. If it's referring to a bezdin, what do you need 9 people for? Hachi kamer, no, like this. Kishizeh borlo bezdin echad. When I choose a bezdin, v'zeh borlo bezdin echad, so then shneihen borin lehen od echad. Now, what it means is, if I choose a bezdin and you reject my bezdin, or you choose a bezdin and then I reject your bezdin, so then both of us have to agree on a bezdin. So basically, all the Mishnah is saying is not that you need 9. It's just saying that you're allowed to prevent the other person. You're allowed to prevent. You can't force the other person from going to your bezdin. So when you both agree on the third party, then you go to that. That's Rav Meir. And now on this assumption, we're asking, the afilu love matzi ma'akev, is that really true? You have a borrower, a guy borrowed money, hasn't paid back. Comes the malva, the creditor, and says, let's go, we're going to bezdin. So usually the lova the verse says Lova Eved Eved Lova. I forgot how it goes. The Ishmalva, he's a servant to him, meaning he can't decide to reject the bezdin. That's part of the creditor's rights. So the Hamar of Elazar. So now, a lova can't reject. So what's your mayor saying that if you have a creditor, it sounds like if you have a debtor, a lova, he can always reject. He can always reject the other guy. Is that really true? Yeah. The Amar of Elazar says later on, Lo shanu ela malva. Have a lova, a borrower, kofanoso, vidan be'iro. A lova, you can't choose. You get judged. And whatever bezd in the malva says we're judging you, we're judging you. So, and we assume that Rav Meir agrees to that. So back to the question, what's the Mishnah talking about? If it's talking about you need 9 people, that can't be. If it's talking about that you can reject the bezdin, it sounds like, with no exceptions, even a borrower can reject the bezdin. That's not true. So what are we talking about? Says the Gemara, really, you could reject. Even a lova could reject. A borrower could reject. In what case? The arkos shebesurya shanu aval mumchin lo. The lova can only reject when the judges that you have are called the courts of Syria, meaning they're not so knowledgeable in law. So when you have very, very mediocre to very not good judges, then the rule is even a lova, even a borrower, could reject. Meaning, but if it's a very good bezdin and there's no reason why, no logical reason why he doesn't want to go there, then he cannot reject. So our mission that says that you could reject is talking about a case where there's a low level of judges. They're called the Syrian judges. I mean, that's, I guess, in Syria then there weren't good judges, so they were lower level, less knowledgeable, and therefore even a lova could reject. But mumchin lo, if they're experts, then no. So Rav Papa Amar, Papa says no. Afilu tema mumchin, even if the court are experts, you could still reject. Kigon beidina dirav huna udirav chista, the ka'amar le mika matrachanalach. What if you have, Rashi said that they're both in one place. So you have in one city 2 very good courts. So there the lova could say, why don't you just come to my court? They're both experts. So there the lova has a claim, mika matrachanalach. I'm not burdening you at all. So even if they're experts, he could still reject the other guy because he feels not a burden at all. Why should I go to you? I can go to him. They're both the same. Okay, so either 2 interpretations. Either the Mishnah is talking about lower level judges, or it's talking about expert judges, and the lova could still can still force. He can reject the malva, reject the creditor. Okay, now the chachamim omrim shnei dayanin. The Chachamim say the 2 judges can choose a 3rd judge. And if you'll tell me that Rav Meir, that first line of the Mishnah, Zeb Borlo Echad, Kidei is referring to a bezdin, and it's not referring to a judge, so then bezdin basar the possible these are like Kidei that bezdin, so bezdin basar the pasilahu azli ubirlahu beidin achrini. So it's like, hold on, if that means bezdin, who says a one bezdin could invalidate another bezdin? Maybe they can't do that. The ode ma'izeh bor lo echad. It says the bor lo echad. Echad sounds like one judge, not one court. There's a bor lo echad. Says the Gemara, you're right. Ella, what it means is like this. Hachi kamar kishezeh bor lo dayin echad. When Ruvain picks for himself one judge. V'zeh bor lo dayin echad. So now shneihen bor lahed od echad. So now who's the shneihen? The people or the judges? Yeah, and then they both litigants together. Oh, so here, both Reuben and Shimon, they choose a third party. Says the Gemara, why do this? So that each one can choose their baldin. So therefore, if they ever lose, they're not going to complain because they chose the judge. So since they chose the judge, they know the judge is going to try to, they're hoping the judge is going to try to at least, as honestly as he could find their merits. And then between the two of them, they chose a third judge. At the end of the day, 2 out of the 3 judges were really, they had a say in it. Since they had a say in it, so therefore, that's the best way to get the judgment to be emestic. Okay. Now, the second case where we said about can you invalidate someone else's judge? Rabbi Meir said, yeah. And the Chachamim said, only when you bring a proof. So now, Chachamim say, only when you bring a proof. So what do Rav Meir and the Chachamim argue about? And this can take us for a while. So, Nema but Rabbi Yehuda Marav Kamiflagi. Dam Rabbi Yehuda Marav, Eina Eidim Chos Mal Shtar Imkin Yodim Mi Chos Mimahen. So now, Rabbi Yehuda Marav has the halacha that the witnesses don't sign on a document unless they know who's signing with them. Because if they don't know, and one of the guys signs, they sign and someone else signs afterwards, and that guy's found to be invalid, they're invalid too. When you invalidate one, you invalidate everybody. So therefore, you only sign when you know who you're signing with. So says the Gemara, maybe Rav Meir less laid Rav Yehuda Marav, V'Rabbana isla Rav Yehuda Marav. Rav Meir doesn't hold a Rav Yehuda Marav. You don't need to know. Therefore, you can come and invalidate the whole thing. And Chachamim say, no, you can only sign, you can only, the judge will only be a judge when he knows who else is judging with him. Therefore, you can't just invalidate the other guy. Sorry. Going back to the Chachamim in the beginning of the mission that said that the 2 judges can choose a third judge. Rav Meir said the 2 guys choose the third judge, and the Chachamim said the 2 judges choose a third judge. Right now we're assuming why? Because the Rabbanan hold of Rabbi Yehuda that the judges before judging they have to know who's judging with them. So therefore, because if not, then if one's invalid, they're all going to be invalid. So maybe the Rabbanan hold of Rabbi Yehuda that just like before you sign, you have to know who you're signing with. The 2 judges have to know who they're sitting with, and that's why the Rabbanan require that you need a third. That the 2 judges choose the third judge, not the 2 litigants. That's what we think right now. We say no. Look, the Kuli Alma Islu Rav Yehuda Marav. Really, even Rav Meir in our Mishnah agrees to Rav Yehuda Marav that the witnesses signing a document have to know who they're signing with. Rather, v'das hadayanin kuli alma lo pligi deba'inan, and everyone agrees that you have to know the judges have to know who they're sitting with. Ki pligi, what's the machlokas from Meir and the Chachamim? It's das balei dinim. Do the litigants have to know who the judges are? Rav Meir suffered das balei dinim nami ba'inan. You also need the knowledge of the litigants. V'Rabbanan savri das hadayanin ba'inan, but das balei dinim lo ba'inan. The Rabbanan hold that the litigants do not have to know who the judges are. So that's the machlokas. Do the litigants have to know who the judges are or not? Gufa Amar Rabbi Marav, back to Rabbi Marav. Eina edim chos min al shtar. He says before you sign a document, you have to know, you witness have to know who you're signing with. Tanya nami hachi kach hayu niki hadas shabu Yerushalayim. This literally what it means is the niki hadas, the das is your knowledge, the clean and knowledgeable ones, meaning the ones that wanted to avoid any blemish. They went above and beyond. This is what they used to do. Osin kach hayu niki hadas Yerushalayim osin. Lo hayu chos mal shtar limkin yodin mi chos imahen. They would never sign a document unless they knew who signed with them. They'd never sit down in any judgment unless they knew who the other judges were. Below and Talmud Chachamim, great Torah scholars, lo hayu nichnasin besuda, they wouldn't sit down at a meal because it was considered improper to sit next to like the average Joe. So they'd only go to know who was sitting with them. Yeah. Okay. So zeh posel dayano shel zeh. Now another machlokes Rav Meir and the Chachamim. Can you invalidate other guys' judges? Says the Gemara, Kol kamine de posel dayane. What does that mean? You can just invalidate someone's judge? How does that work? Rabbi Yochanan, you're right. It doesn't work unless our kosher b'surya shanu aval mumchen lo. It's only referring to a case where the judges are very mediocre. They're like the Syrian courts, very mediocre. Level 2 judges. There you could reject it. Sounds like part of your right as being a litigant is I'm happy to do a court case, but has to be even, has to be fair. If there's going to be a level 2 judge, so then that's not going to go. So now, okay, now says the Gemara, how many seifa the chamim omrim a masay bizman maybe raya shein krovin psulin aval imheim sherin or mumchen mipi bezdin ein yochel poslan michlader meir mumchen nami kamer. If you look at the end, the Chachamim say that it's only when you bring a proof that they are relatives or invalid. But if they were kosher, no problem with them, or they were experts, then you cannot invalidate them. Sounds like Rav Meir holds. Even if they were experts, you could still invalidate them, which is against what we just said. Because we asked, how can you invalidate an expert judge? How does that work? Says the Gemara, you're right. Hachi kamar. Aval im hayuk sherin. What it means like this: if you have judges that are totally fine, no blemish in them, not relatives, nothing, and Chachamim say it's naseh kimumchin mipi bezdin. They're considered like mumchin mipi bezdin ve'enu yachal poslan. That's the machlokas Rav Meir and the Chachamim. Regular judge that's not an expert. Do you view him like an expert, and therefore you cannot invalidate him, or no, you don't view him like an expert, and therefore you could invalidate him? That's the machlokas Rav Meir and the Chachamim. Says the Gemara, Tashma Amru Lo Rav Meir. Chachamim said to Rav Meir, "Lo kol hemenu sheposel dayin shemumcha l'rabim." We have another brisa that sounds like the Rabbanan said, "You Rav Meir, you can't invalidate a judge who's an expert." Sounds like Rav Meir held you could invalidate a judge who's an expert. Not like what we're saying now. We're saying now that you can only invalidate a judge who's a level 2 judge, but not an expert. Says the Gemara, "Ema lo kol hemenu sheposel dayin shehimchuhu rabim aleim." No, what the brisa just means is you can't invalidate a judge that they made an expert. The public made him an expert upon them, meaning he was a regular judge and he's treated like an expert. But at the end of the day, the position is true. You cannot invalidate, according to everybody, a real expert judge, a real mumcha. Tanya nami hachi, a brisa supports this. La'olam posel v'holich ad shikabel of bezdin. She mumcha l'rabim divrei Rav Meir. You can keep invalidating until you find a real bezdin of experts. Then you cannot invalidate. So you see that Rav Meir also agrees to this. If you're considered an expert, then we cannot invalidate you as a judge. Says the Gemara, every 2 witnesses, right? The ha'edim kimumchin dami. So witnesses, who are not invalid at all, are considered like mumchin because just like an expert judge why is he an expert judge? Because he knows the law the best. A witness who's testifying his testimony, he knows the testimony the best. So maybe he's considered like an expert, and yet Rav Meir says, "Is that postal edav shalzeh? Is that postal edav shalzeh?" So Rav Meir, when it comes to witnesses, they're also experts. They know the best testimony are the witnesses who saw the testimony, and yet he could still invalidate them. So maybe he should be able to invalidate a judge also. Itmar Allah, and we had a Amoraic statement about this. Amrei Shlakish, Peh Kadosh Yomar Davar Zeh. What you think the mission is talking about? You can invalidate 2 witnesses. You can't invalidate witnesses. So rather, Tani Eido. You're right. You cannot invalidate 2 witnesses. How such a holy mouth say such a thing? What you have to say is the mission is talking about 1 witness. Tani Eido. If there's 1 witness, then you can invalidate him. Says the Gemara, 1 witness. Eido Lamai. What's 1 witness doing in Bezdin? He's good for nothing. He comes to say, Ruben Shimon money. We tell him goodbye. Rachmana Pasle. We need 2 witnesses for money to take money out of somebody's hands, not 1 witness. Elish Shvua. If he's coming to make a guy make a Shvua, so then Heimenu Mehemen Betray. The rule is, when it comes to a Shvua, the Torah teaches us that he's viewed like 2 witnesses. So what's the case where you can invalidate 1 witness? Le'olam lemama. You're right. He comes for monetary reasons. And what's the case? Lotricha dekav le'aleh kebetray. Reuven tells Shimon, listen, you bring one witness, I'll treat him like 2. If you bring 1, I'll give you the money. So now you have 1 witness treated like 2, but now the guy could reject him. That's the case of one witness that you could reject. One witness for money, you accept it upon yourself, but you're allowed to invalidate him. Says the Gemara, "Mai kamash malon the matzi haderbe." What are you teaching me that that once you accepted a witness, you can now retract on it? Tanina, we already learned this. Amrulo namanalai abba. Let's say you say, my father will be one of the judges. Namanalai avicha, or your father will be one of the judges, or namanalai shlosh roi bakar, or 3 shepherds, who they're usually very not knowledgeable. All these 3 people are invalid witnesses. Your father, my father, 3 shepherds, they're all invalid witnesses. Once you've accepted upon yourself to have them as your witness, Rav Meir Omer Yachol Lachzerbo, you're allowed to retract. So too here, once you've accepted the witness upon yourself, you're allowed to reject them. So we know already that once you accepted an invalid witness, so you're allowed to go and you're allowed to reject it.
Reject your own witness.
Right. The Chamim Omrim Einu Yachol Lachzerbo, that you cannot reject it.
Cowboys can't be judged.
That's right. Bummer of Dimi, turning the page. Breder of Nachman, Breder of Yosef. Kigon, what's the case? The Kibla Aleha Bechad. The case is where you have 2 good judges. You accepted a 3rd judge upon yourself who's not good. And still, since he is invalid, then you could now find a new judge. Right? So even though you accepted upon yourself, but you don't have to keep him to therefore invalidate the rest of the bunch. So too in our case, because you accepted this guy like 2, which is invalid. You can't accept 1 like 2. You need 2. But still you could still retract. So it says, if that's where Meir is teaching me that when I accepted 1 like 2, which is invalid, I can retract because it's invalid. We know that already. So now, says the Gemara, I need both of these statements to teach me that I can retract. Why? Tzricha. Maybe there the rabbis say that you cannot go back by case of my father, your father. Mishum da Abba v'Avicha chazul alma. They're really good witnesses. For you, they're not good, but in general, they're good. But chad kebei trey de la alma lo chazi ema mod le Rav Meir. Maybe the rabbis will agree to Rav Meir when you have a guy that's never good to be witness because only 1. He's not good for anybody. That the Rabbanan would already agree to Rav Meir that you could reject. Kamash Malan, that you can't. The Iash Me'inan Baha Kamer Rav Meir. Maybe only here Rav Meir said that you could retract. Aval Bahahi, but in the case of having 1 like 2, Ema Modul Hula Rabbanan. Maybe there he'll agree to the Rabbanan that really you cannot retract. Kamashon, you need both cases to teach you that Rav Meir said you could retract, and the rabbis say you cannot retract. Now, says the Gemara, Hamadikatani Reisha Dayano V'Seifa Eidav. Since the beginning of the Mishnah spoke about a judge in the singular, and then witnesses in the plural, so Alma Dafa Katani. It sounds like when we're talking about witnesses, when in the middle it mentions witnesses in the plural, you can't say it means singular. That's how we got into this whole mess. Rather, it means plural, because you see the Mishnah is very specific on how it phrases things. So Amrabel. So then, if that's true, what's the case where you can reject 2 witnesses? Amrabel Lazar bebahu ve'acher leposlan. So now, you, the litigant, come with another witness to invalidate the other guy's witnesses. So he brings 2 witnesses. You, the litigant, and someone else comes to invalidate them. Says the Gemara, you can't do that. Kol kamine, no be'edasu. You, the litigant, are not valid to invalidate your other litigant. Reuben can't bring witnesses, can't be one of the witnesses to reject Shimon's witnesses, because Reuben is nogei be'edus. He has a very vested interest over here. He wants to keep his money in his pocket. So says the Gemara, you're right. Amar Rav Acha, Breder Avika, Gagon Shekara Alav Ira. You're right. He didn't come to reject it. Rather, he started to spread rumors about him, it sounds like. Says the Gemara, Ira Demai. What's he saying? Ilema Ira de Gazlanusa. You want to come and say that the guy's a Gazlan, so you're also not believed. Kol Kamine Yirno Gebe Eidasu. Reuben, nothing he says about Shimon's witnesses is going to be valid. because he's no gay be'edus. He's vested in this. He's a vested interest, and that's invalid for testimony. Ella irer dipegam mishpacha. He's saying that there was something wrong in the family. Now, he's not saying about this guy. This guy's father was a tremendous thief. So now it's going to trickle down to this guy. Maybe we should look into him. Ooh, maybe he's also a thief. So Rav Meir savar hani mishpacha kamas adi ve'ihu memela kapasil. Rav Meir holds you can testify about the family, something that's wrong, and then it's going to trickle down and invalidate this guy. V'Rabbanan savri, no. Sov nogei be'edusu. At the end of the day, you cannot invalidate the guy's family, and then it's going to end up that he's invalid. It's not direct testimony, but it's yeah. But Rav Meir said it's indirect testimony, and that's going to it sounds like that according to Rav Meir is the chiddush. He's a novel opinion. Now, okay, here's a little complicated part. Kiyasser Rav Dimi came from Eretz Yisrael. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, he said, name of Rabbi Yochanan, who's the big rabbi in Eretz Yisrael? Machlokas b'shteki te'edim. To Rav Meir savar tzarich levarer v'Rabbanan savar ein tzarich levarer. A guy comes and says, I have two sets of witnesses to my claim against you. Shimon Yomi money, and I have two sets of witnesses. And now Reuben comes with with him and someone else. Reuben comes with second. Yeah, and now Reuben comes and says, your set are puzzle. So now what happened? Shimon said he's going to bring two sets of witnesses. The question is going to be, until you bring those two sets, is it valid or not valid? So if you hold that when you say I'm going to bring two sets of witnesses, you have to bring them, then Reuben can come and invalidate your one set of witnesses because you promised two sets. So if you're not keeping to your word, then maybe even your one set's a little bit shaky. So Reuben can come and invalidate that. That must be what Rav Meir holds. Why Reuben can come and invalidate Shimon's witnesses. The rabbis are going to hold, though, just because you said you're going to bring two sets of witnesses, at the end of the day, you only brought one. They're valid, and you can't go and invalidate someone else's valid witnesses. Aval bekat achas, with one set of witnesses, divrei hakol einu yakol leposlan. Everyone agrees with one set of witnesses. Reuben can't come and reject Shimon's witnesses. It's only when you said two sets of witnesses that you could. Okay, we'll stop here.